Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and for this video, we're going to be going over 9 broken builds you can try if you want to get a lot of damage. These are builds some of these I've done previously, I've added to, made them even more powerful, and I've even ranked these in terms of power. For the first one here, this is more fun, but it does good damage. We're going to start with a build for the Iron Ball. For those waiting on build requests, that's going to be the week after this one. I had some stuff come up. I was sick. I had some stuff going on with my health and whatnot. So I put this one together because I wanted to increase damage on some of the really good builds you could try in Elden Ring, and then of course rank them too. This one, once again, is amazing for poise damage, good for general physical damage. For your buffs, you're going to use Golden Vow, Blessing's Boon, and then we're even poison procking here as well. I'll go over some of the buffing orders later. They're relatively similar for a lot of these. You're going to get a good amount of damage, and of course, you're going to get in some great breaks too. And of course, you're going to want to use Halishaburi and the Bloodsucking Cracked here as well. These builds are not for everybody. They're more for going for damage. Now, this is the least damaging one on the entire list. I just love this one because it does a lot of poise damage. All the footage for this specific video was on Journey 3, and I'm going to go over, like I said, some of the buffing orders later to make your life a little easier, although again, they're relatively similar. I've gotten some of the ones later on this list to really high damage. I'm happy with it without having to do too much in terms of buffs. There's a lot of buffs, but it's nothing crazy or too hard to remember. Let's jump into equipment for this one. We have the Iron Ball and Heavy Affinity with Endure on it. We are using the Deadly Perfume bottle, the poison one, to poison ourselves. We have any seal for buffs, Rakshasa set, Kindred of Rot's Exaltation, Axe Talisman. We have the Blade of Mercy Talisman. Then we have the Dagger Talisman. We're going to get in some critical hits with this one for sure. We have the Bloodsucking Cracked tier, Spike Cracked tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats on this one, we have 60 Vigor, 17 Mind, 28 Endurance, 60 Strength, 13 Dexterity, 33 Fate, so we could use our buffs, Golden Vow, Blessing's Boon, and of course, Halishaburi, and we have 69 Poise for this build. And next up on here, we have a build for the Giant Crusher that's incredibly fun. We're going to start our buffs with Blessing's Boon to keep our HP going up, kind of fight against the Bloodsucking Cracked tier, then Golden Vow, then we're going to drink our tier because that's when our health starts going down because we have the Bloodsucking Cracked tier, then Halishaburi, and then we're going to poison proc ourselves for some extra damage, and then we're going to see how much we do here. Alright, and of course for this we have the Fire Crusher. If you want to run this as a Faith build, you could do this in Flame Art too. It's going to have great damage, you just have to split your stats. And we got over 7,000 damage with one use of Savage Lion's Claw. That's pretty awesome. One more flip there, and Godfrey Golden Shade is down. This is one that's really fun that you can buff up and do a lot of damage with. Does a good amount of poise damage too. Has a little bit more range if you go with Guts Greatsword, but in this case, I like using the Giant Crusher for the really good AR. Let's jump into equipment and stats. And we have the Fire Giant Crusher with Savage Lion's Claw. We have the Deadly Perfume bottle again to poison proc ourselves. We have the Divine Beast Helm Rakshasa set on, any seal for buff, Shard of Alexandria, Kindred of Rot's Exaltation, Fire Scorpion Charm, Arsenal Charm +1 or Great Jar's Arsenal if you have it, Flame tier, Bloodsucking Cracked tier. You do not need the Gravebird armor. It doesn't boost Lion's Claw, but it will boost your regular jump attacks. For our stats, we have 60 Vigor, 18 Mind, 28 Endurance, 64 Strength, 16 Dexterity, 33 Faith. We're using Golden Vow, Blessing's Boon, and of course Halishaburi too. Keep in mind, for any of the poison procking ones, you can use the Mushroom Crown. I just don't like it. It's really ugly. At number 7, we have a build for a Charged Lance build, Charged Sword Lance build. For here, same deal. We're going to use Golden Vow, Blessing's Boon. We're going to drink our tier, use Halishaburi, and then lastly, the last thing you're going to do is poison proc yourself, of course, to get that extra 20% damage. That'll be 30% if you run the Mushroom Crown, and let's see how much damage we get here. If you're wondering why I chose do this video this way and go for the broken builds, it was just a lot of builds that I liked that I wanted to add more damage to just for the fun of it to see what I could do. And let's see how this goes here. Over 6,000 damage on one hit. That's pretty incredible with the Sword Lance. And let's try out Phase 2 for Malekith, see how we do here. The big deal here is we are doing pierce damage, so we have the Spear Talisman plus the additional counterattack damage you get when an enemy basically attacks you and you attack at the same time. You get a boost of around, I think it's 15 or 30%, and then on top of that, you could stack the Spear Talisman with that. He probably should have went down there, but ultimately almost 2 hits for the entire fight, which was pretty incredible, with just a little bit of HP left there. In a second here, we're going to go over equipment, stats, everything you need to know for a powerful sword lance build. That's a lot of fun too. And of course, none other than our heavy affinity trusty Royal Knight's Resolve for the sword lance. You can run a shield with this build too, any seal for buffs, deadly perfume bottle. We have the Rakshasa armor and Divine Beast Helmon, spear talisman, two-handed sword talisman, we have the axe talisman, we have Kindred of Rot's exaltation, and then we have the spike correct tier, blood-sucking correct tier. Let's jump into stats. And we have 60 Vigor, 14 Mind, 32 Endurance, 64 Strength, 16 Dexterity. We have 33 Faith once again, so we could use our buffs. We hit over 51 Poise here. We're using Golden Vow, Blessing's Boon, and of course, Halashabiri for extra damage. Alright, now let's jump into my literal favorite one on this list, because I didn't know this was going to do this much damage. For our buffs for the Falx here, we're going to start using Golden Vow and Blessing's Boon. Then we're going to use Halashabiri. Blood-sucking correct here, I like to leave a little bit later because it's going to drain your health pretty much immediately as soon as you drink it. And then we're, of course, going to use the Deadly Perfume Bottle to poison ourselves. And let's see how much damage we get with the Falx Ash of War. And we're going to stun Morgott, of course, with Margit's Shackle. It's an item, by the way. And let's see how much damage we get with this. 12,000 damage with the Ash of War. That was pretty impressive there. And then it just took 2 more jumps. This is Journey 3, but still 12,000 damage with 1 use of the Ash of War. Pretty good. The Falx is definitely a weapon that you should be looking at and checking out. Seppuku jump attacks are typically better, but this one, in my opinion, is a lot more fun. Let's jump into equipment. We have the Falx plus 10, we have the Deadly Poison Perfume Bottle, we have any seal for buffs, White Mask, Gravebird Armor, Rakshasa Set, Solitude Pants on, we have Kindred Rot's Exaltation, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Shard of Alexander, Millicent's Prosthesis, Blood-Sucking Correct Tier, Thorny Tier, and then we're using Margit's Shackle to stun the boss here. Let's jump into stats for this one. And our stats for this build, 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 28 Endurance, 20 Strength, 55 Dexterity, 33 Faith. The weapon slightly quality, it does lean Dexterity, 54 Poise. We were using Golden Vow, Blessing's Boon, and Halashabiri. And next up we have one for the Reduvia at number 5. The Reduvia is quite good. A couple of people asked me to look into this weapon again and decided to buff it up. For this one we're going to do something a little bit different. We're using Golden Vow, Halashabiri. You can add Blessing's Boon too if you want, but we're going to switch to an offhand dagger to use the Ash of War Shriek of Sorrow, which is going to give us more physical damage as our HP goes down. And Bloodblade is physical damage, so it's actually going to increase the damage for our Ash of War. And of course, we do end up getting good damage with Bloodblade. It ends up being a really convenient Ash of War too, a really fun one to run. But basically, as your health lowers, you can keep Shriek of Sorrow as long as the dagger's in your left hand. You cannot go back to two-handing though, the buff will disappear. And once again here, we're going to stack some damage up. And of course, there's 14,000 damage with 3 Bloodblades. Overall, this is a really fun one and quite a good one for a dagger build, ultimately. Mesmer goes down relatively quickly to Reduvia and Bloodblade. This is one I recommend checking out if you like daggers, and also if you like bleed builds, and you're getting kind of tired of the jump attack bleed builds. 2 that I'd recommend on this list are this one and the last one. Reduvia and the Falx, check out those 2. It can give you a little bit more variety and probably a more fun time, ultimately. In a second here, we're going to go over equipment, stats, everything you need to know for a powerful Reduvia build. It's going to give you a lot of physical damage and bleed buildup. And for equipment, we have the Reduvia plus 10. We have a offhand dagger for Shriek of Sorrow. Make sure you don't two-hand. We have the Dragon Communion Seal, White Mask, Rakshasa set. We have Lord of Blood's Exaltation. We have Shard of Alexander. We have Millicent's Prosthesis, Wingsword Insignia or Rotten Wingsword Insignia if you have it, Blood-Sucking Correct Tier, Faith Tier. Let's jump into stats. Those will proc, by the way, if you're up close using Reduvia. You can actually proc successive hits as long as you're up close making contact with the weapon. 60 Vigor, 17 Mind, 23 Endurance, 12 Strength, 45 Dexterity, 33 Faith, 45 Arcane, Golden Vow, Halashabiri. And next up, we have a better build for the Carian Slicer Sorcery. Covered this one last week. I found out 2 different people commented. I wasn't sure if it could build up on successive hits or not. It can. It does take a little bit more time than regular weapons to do so, though. For this one, I decided to make it better. We're using, for the buffing order, Blessing's Boon, Golden Vow, and then Halashabiri. Then you're going to drink the Blood-Sucking Correct Tier and Magic Tier. Then we're going to use Terra Magica last, of course, and let's see how much damage we can stack with Carian Slicer. And of course, I did this one last week, but I wanted to make it even better because I love Carian Slicer. I've been running it a lot lately. I wanted to see how much damage I can get out of it ultimately. Try to make it the best it can possibly be because I've been using it pretty frequently. And right there, about 5 hits, 12,000 damage. Let's see how much damage we get here. And we are going to end up with, this is going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hits, but 17,000 damage. It really is good for the amount of FP. If you saw the amount of FP we used for the amount of damage we're getting, it's truly phenomenal. If you're running a sorcery build, I definitely recommend adding Carian Slicer to it. Let's jump into equipment and stats. And we have Lucette's Glintstone Staff plus 10. We have the Carian Glintstone Staff in the offhand. We have the Deadly Perfume Bottle again. We have any seal for buffs. We have the Rakshasa set, Magic Scorpion Charm, Kindred of Rot's Exaltation, Millicent's Prosthesis, Wing Sword Insignia or Rotten Wing Sword Insignia if you have it, Bloodsucking Crack Tier, Magic Tier, and then we're using Sleeping Pots there for the Godskin duo. Let's jump into stats. And we have 50 Vigor, 20 Mind, 20 Endurance, 12 Strength, 20 Dexterity, 70 Intelligence, 33 Faith. We hit 58 Poise. We're using Golden Vow, Hal Shabriri, Blessing Spoon, Terra Magica, and Carian Slicer. And next up here, we have a buffed up version for the Sword of Night and Flame. I was curious as how much damage you can get out of the beam for this weapon. A couple people again asked me for this one to see what I can do with it, what the most I could do with it was. This buffing order is going to be the same as Carian Slicer. And the beam there, the Draconic Tree Sentinel is pretty resistant, by the way. 9,000 damage. The second one was over 6,000 damage. 2 hits, over 15,000 damage. That's pretty incredible. This is definitely a good one to run. If you're running an intelligence build or you're running the stats I have, you can use the same build that I used for Carian Slicer for the Sword of Night and Flame build here. Let's jump into equipment. The Sword of Night and Flame, that was only plus 9, plus 10 is even better. We have any staff, any seal. We have the Deadly Perfume Bottle, Rakshasa set, Magic Scorpion Charm, Kindred of Rot's Exaltation. We have the Shard of Alexander Talisman, Rolana's Cameo, of course, for that extra stance damage. We have Bloodsucking Crack Tier, Magic Tier. Let's jump into stats. And we're going to end up using the same stats as last build. We have 50 Vigor, 20 Mind, 20 Endurance, 12 Strength, 15 Dexterity, 70 Intelligence, 33 Faith. We are using Golden Vow, Hal Shabriri, Blessing's Boon, Terra Magica. You can run any other sorceries with this as well, and we hit 58 poise. Alright, so for these next two, they're relatively samey, but I wanted to see how much damage I can get. So we're going to run Night Comet at number 2. We're using Blessing's Boon, Golden Vow, then we're going to drink our Tear. When we get closer to the boss, we're going to use Hal Shabriri, and then of course Poison proc 2, and we're going to see how much damage we can ultimately get running 2 Staves of Loss, of course. By the way, for those looking for the build request, that's going to be the week after this one. I just didn't have a lot of time this past week. As I mentioned earlier, had some health issues, was sick for a bit, so I ended up putting this together because I was just messing around with different damage numbers and decided to make a video out of it. Next week, I'll be back to build requests, so if you have any build requests, put them in the comments below so I know, and of course I'll be looking at any of the previous videos for those ones too. If you've requested anything recently, there's a decent chance it'll get done in the next video. 8,000 damage on a Night Comet there, that's pretty incredible. Let's see how much more we get, and we ultimately got 9,000 again, and another 9,000. He doesn't have a lot of HP going into Phase 2 here. Now, Phase 2 is a lot less telling. Even if you rebuff Hal and whatnot, it's really hard to find his weak points in Phase 2. I think it's pretty much the eye, that's about it. So we're not going to get nearly as much damage. Most bosses here, you're still going to be hitting for between 6,000 and 10,000 damage with a build like this one. But of course, as I mentioned, he's fairly resistant to where we're hitting him, so it makes it a lot more difficult. I did try to hit his eye there, but I didn't hit him. I didn't manage to hit him. Even with the target lock, it's hard to hit that eye. If you do manage to hit it, though, you will get a lot of damage. His hands take a little bit more damage, and the rest of his body's resistant. For equipment, we have 2 Staves of Loss. You only need the one that you're using upgraded. We have the Deadly Perfume Bottle again, any seal for buffs. We have the Rakshasa set, Magic Scorpion Charm, Kindred of Rot's Exaltation. We have the Godfrey Icon. We have the Graven Mask Talisman. We have the Bloodsucking Crack Tier, Magic Tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats on this one, we have 50 Vigor, 20 Mind, 20 Endurance, 12 Strength, 15 Dexterity, sorry, not 12, 70 Intelligence, 33 Faith. These are the same stats, the last two, the 3 in the row were all the same stats. Golden Vow, Hal Shabriri, Blessing's Boon, Terra Magica, and of course, Night Comet. And at number 1, we have the Blasphemous Blade. I tried to buff up the Blasphemous Blade before, but this is my best build for it, without a doubt. We are using Golden Vow, Hal Shabriri. This is the perfect weapon to run, by the way. If you're looking to low health proc or do anything with the Deadly Perfume bottle, which we're going to use here to proc Kindred of Rot's Exaltation, because you're constantly going to heal back HP. I think ultimately you're going to be surprised with the amount of damage we get here. Let's see how the first hit goes. Almost 13,000 damage. 26,000 almost with 2 hits to the Blasphemous Blade. That's pretty incredible. And let's see how the rest of this fight ultimately goes. This is pretty insane, though, the amount of damage we're getting with the Blasphemous Blade. If you want to run this build, you're going to do a lot of damage to pretty much any of the bosses in the game. You're going to be taking them down quickly. And as you can tell, even with our health ticking down, it does not matter because the Blasphemous Blade is going to heal all that back, making this a very well-rounded and pretty intelligent build to run for the Blasphemous Blade that can do a ton of damage, as you can see. Let's jump into equipment and stats. And we have the Blasphemous Blade plus 10, of course. We have any seal for buffs. We have the Deadly Poison Perfume bottle, of course, to poison proc ourselves, the Deadly Perfume. Rakshasa set, Shard of Alexander. We have the Fire Scorpion Charm. We have the Talisman of the Dread, of course. Amazing talisman for the Blasphemous Blade they added in the DLC. Kindred of Rot's Exaltation. Blood Second Crack Tier, Flame Tier. By the way, you only need the Dexterity to run the Deadly Perfume bottle. You do not need the Arcane to poison proc yourself. For stats, we have 60 Vigor, 22 Mind, 28 Endurance, 16 Strength, 15 Dexterity. We have 70 Faith, we have 58 Poise, and we're using Golden Vow and Hellish Brewery. And thanks for watching this one. Thanks for tuning into my top 9 broken builds in Elden Ring. These are definitely worth checking out if you want to get high damage or you're looking to increase damage on any of your previous builds. Couple of build requests in here, including looking at the Sword of Night and Flame again, but we're going to be doing build requests this upcoming week, so don't forget to comment below if there's something you want to see. I did a full play of Elden Ring Night Rain. I'll leave that in the description below. I cannot wait for release. I had a lot of fun with it. It was really good. I will catch you guys in the next video.